How's it going, everybody? C-RadTV back here in our video. Of course, another NFL draft is officially come and gone and in the books, as the 2025 draft has come and gone quickly as it came. And of course, we have 7 new players to talk about and 7 players added to the one prior to the Lions roster of kneecap biters. So, we're going to go through all 7 picks and I'll give you a breakdown of them and my thoughts on it. So, let's go. So, starting off, our first pick in the first round, pick 28, the Lions shockingly didn't trade up or down in the first round. They stayed at their pick, and with that pick, they took hailing out of Ohio State defensive tackle Tyreek Williams. So, for Tyreek in his college career at Ohio State, he had 136 tackles, 28 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks, and 1 pass deflection. He was also a 2024. He was also part of the Ohio State Championship National Championship squad in 2024. He was also on the All Big Ten third team in 2023 and 2024. His PFF grade in 2024 was 79.2, but his run defense grade in 2024 for PFF was an 88.6. He was tied for 6th in run stops with 20 among FBS D linemen in 2024. He was also tied for team lead 10 tackles for a loss in 2023. He's the first interior defensive lineman the Lions have selected in the first round since they selected Nick Fairley in 2011. He's also the first Ohio State D lineman ever selected by the Lions in the first round. The second Ohio State D lineman drafted by the Lions. And he's the 5th Ohio State first round selection by the Lions. The first since the Lions took Jeff Okudah 3rd overall in 2020. I think a lot of Lion fans are hoping that Tyreek will end up having a better career with the Lions than Jeff Okudah did. And we're going to be talking about Jeff Okudah's career real shortly when we do a draft revisiting video. Spoilers, a little more on that later. In terms of Tyreek's strengths, he was one of the most dominant run stuffers in this year's draft class. He is an immovable object at the heart of the defensive front. Explosive off the snap, power pack frame, makes it extremely difficult for opposing blockers to keep him from resetting the point of attack immediately. Early disruption on every snap forces ball carriers to quickly adjust the running lanes. He's adept at funneling plays to his teammates. He uses his hands effectively, prevents offensive linemen from keeping him under control. He's able to keep his body free, move in the direction he wants without getting stymied and pushed back. In terms of weaknesses, though, the physical tools are certainly there for Williams to make an impact on an interior pass rusher, but production simply hasn't materialized. Had to be flash potential in that area of his game with 5 sacks as a freshman in 2021. He only managed to log only 6.5 more sacks over the next 3 years. He might be viewed as a 2-down player, limited value in passing situations if he can't develop as a pass rushing presence. Because the main draw with him is he's a dominant run stuffer, but he has the potential to be a top pass rusher, but in terms of that front, he's still extremely raw in there and may take time to develop in pass rushing. In terms of NFL comparisons, like he's only been compared to Lee McNeil, who you'll be partnered with in the long run, but he's also had comparisons to Kenny Clark of the Green Bay Packers. Overall, though, he's an elite run defender, can single-handedly shut down an opposing offense on the ground, has the physical traits to develop to a more impactful pass rusher in the NFL than he was in college. Even if that area of his game never fully expands, he'll still have a ton of value as a disruptive force in the ground game. So really for him to develop, he needs to have the right coaching staff and the right personnel around him to reach that level. I think he'll 100% have that with Dan Campbell in the Lions squad. And he'll most likely be the starter because, well, I think long run he's going to be most likely the successor to DJ Reader. Says DJ Reader's in the contract year coming up. But he'll most likely be a starter for the first half of the year for the most part if he can beat out Levi Onsarike and Josh Paschal. And since Lee McNeil will be out for the first half of the year since his injury from last year, he's going to carry over for the first half of 2025. I know a lot of people want to call this pick a reach. I don't really think it was too much of a reach. I mean, he was projected to go anywhere in that point in the draft. Like, he was projected to be out anywhere as high as a mid to late first rounder to at least an early to mid second rounder. Plus, it was very unlikely Tyreek was not going to be there in the second round. Since there were a lot of rumors and reports that Buffalo was interested in taking Williams at number 30. So, Yeah. But overall, you know, addressing the defensive front, maybe someone also take on double teams too and take some pressure off for Hutch so Hutch can go get the QB and beat a guy one-on-one. As long as Hutch doesn't get fucking held again. But that will probably still happen. But yeah, honestly, I don't know why everyone complains about this pick. Honestly, it's a really good pick because the Lions need to address the defensive front. I think the only reason a lot of people hate this pick with Tyreek is because he played for Ohio State. Because they let the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry cloud their judgment. I'll just say this. I don't give a flying fuck where he played college. That is pretty irrelevant once you get to the NFL on a professional level. Alright, that was the past. It's now here. Now it's now. But yeah, honestly, I think it's a really solid pick. I mean, it's not a flashy pick. I mean, yeah, some people gotta remember, Lions are no longer picking in the top 10. They're picking late first round. You know, not every pick is gonna be flashy like a Terry and Arnold. You know, not every pick has to be a sexy pick. Like, it's not sexy, but it's an essential pick. So I think it's a pretty solid pick. And we'll see how this pans out in a few years. So the next player the Lions selected in the draft at pick 57, the Lions took guard Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. So for Tate at Georgia, he started 37 of 41 games at Georgia. All his 37 starts and games came at right guard only. He's a two-time national champion, being part of both of Georgia's national championship winning squads in 2021 and 2022. So he's a proven winner in college. He was a 2024 AP All-American third-teamer. Also made the All-SEC first team in 2023 and 2024. In 2024, he allowed only 7 pressures and 1 sack on 311 pass blocking snaps. In 2023, he was an AP All-American second-teamer. In 2023, he allowed 5 pressures and 0 sacks on 418 pass block snaps. In 2023. In 2022, he allowed only 6 pressures and 1 sack on 448 pass block snaps. He's the first interior O-lineman the Lions have selected in the second round since the Lions took Dominic Raiola in 2001. First O-lineman the Lions have selected from Georgia since 1985. And he's the 5th Georgia O-lineman the Lions have ever selected in the draft. In terms of strengths, though, despite having a tall frame for an interior lineman, he excels at keeping his pads low, maintains proper leverage, can control opposing defenders at the point of attack, uses his size and power to absorb bull rushes, keeps a wide, active base, refuses to give any ground, can effectively read complex pass rush games with switch defenders, passing off and picking up the right assignments to keep his QB clean. He got enough athleticism to climb the second level. His size allows him to engulf back 7 defenders to spring ball carriers for big gains. Highly experienced player, ton of reps under his belt against top competition. He's also been listed as one of the top sleeper picks in this draft because he's tall in stature, mighty in strength, anchor upper body combined with a wealth of experience. It could make him a future NFL starter, possibly only a right guard though. In terms of his weaknesses though, defenders that are active and violent with their hands, they can give Tate some trouble. He loses the hand fights battle early in the rep. It can lead to playing catch-up and overcompensating, which can get him off balance, cause him to reach. While his starting experience is valuable as a mainstay at right guard, he doesn't have the versatility of other interior blockers in this draft class to go anywhere on the O-line. I mean, in terms of pro comparisons, he's had a lot of comparisons to Ben Cleveland of the Baltimore Ravens. But overall, Tate, he's huge, athletic, powerful, ton of experience against the best defensive trench talent the college ranks have to offer. Lacks positional versatility, needs to improve his hand usage, but he should be a plug-and-play starter at right guard that can make an immediate impact. Since, Lions do need a right guard after they lost Kevin Seitler in the offseason, so he could go there if, they don't want to put Christian Mahogany there. Because the Lions do need to start retooling that O-line. Because the O-line is starting to show some age outside of Penei Sewell. Because Glasgow's in a contract year. different rumors about Frank Ragnow retiring, along with Taylor Decker. But I mean, with Decker, we got Giovanni Manu for that. And, you know, if they keep Glasgow, though, they might keep Glasgow if Ragnow retires, because Glasgow has experience at center. So that could open the door for, like, Mahogany to slide over there. But, you know, definitely Lions looking at him as one of their top guards for the future. Very big, too. So, yeah, could have a good future as a starting right guard to take over Kevin Seitler's spot. If Christian Mahogany doesn't go there. If they want to have Mahogany sit behind Glasgow for a year, or maybe have him beat out Glasgow for the starting job. We'll have to see how training camp pans out. So the next player the Lions took in this draft class, at pick number 70 in the draft, we have wide receiver Isaac Tesla out of Arkansas. So yeah, some people may hate him just because his last name is based off a brand of shitty electric cars. Too bad I don't let that cloud my judgment. Even though there's an extra A in Tesla this time. But in terms of Isaac's college notes and career, well, in college, he had 62 receptions for 896 yards, averaging 14.5 yards per catch, and had 5 touchdowns. He also split his college career at Arkansas, playing only in Arkansas from 2023 and 2024, and then spent the first 3 years of his college career at Hillsdale College from 2020 to 2022. He also participated in the 2025 Senior Bowl and also participated at the 2025 NFL Dress Scouting Combine. He was 5th in the SEC, 13th in FBS with 19.5 receiving yards average in 2024. He was also 2nd in Arkansas in 2024 with 545 receiving yards. He was also a 2023 GMAC Player of the Year. He was also a 2022 First Team All GMAC teamer. He was also tied for 7th in Division II with 1,325 receiving yards in 2022. He's the first wide receiver the Lions have ever selected out of Arkansas, and the first Arkansas player the Lions have selected in the draft since Frank Ragnow in 2018. I mean, Frank Ragnow has done some pretty good things and has become one of the top centers in the game. So, maybe some good fortunes and signs for Isaac Tesla, too. And he's also the first wide receiver the Lions have selected in the 3rd round since Kenny Golladay in 2017. I mean, Golladay was pretty solid when he played in Detroit. Once he left Detroit, not so much else. But yeah, you know, definitely I think he's brought in to be the wide receiver 3. I think he's brought in to be eventually Tim Patrick's replacement since, you know, Tim's getting old. So I think he's going to be wide receiver 3. You know, could be groomed up to be the next Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, he pretty much does the Amon-Ra headstand celebration that Amon-Ra did in Green Bay in the rain last year. So he already has that down pat. You know, definitely could be another Amon-Ra type player. You know, to add it to the receiving core to give Goff another solid weapon to throw to. And I think that, and honestly, in terms of the whole, oh, is he here to replace J-Mo? No, I don't think he's here to replace J-Mo. He doesn't have the explosiveness that J-Mo has. Plus, I think the whole J-Mo trade rumors thing can be put to rest since J-Mo's 5th-year option did get picked up by the Lions during the draft. So I think we can put that to bed for now. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how Brad Holmes manages the cap since, you know, not everybody's going to get extended. But, we'll find out in due time if the Lions found another diamond in the rough with Isaac Tesla. You know, I think definitely some promise with him for sure. But, you know, time will tell for sure. So, the next Lions draft pick we're going to go over here, taken at pick 171, we have hailing out of LSU, guard Miles Frazier. So, for Miles' career notes in college, he started 50 of 54 games in college, had 27 starts at right guard, 11 starts at left tackle, 10 starts at right guard, and 2 starts at right tackle. So, he has versatility and can play anywhere on the O-line. He split his college career at LSU. He played at LSU from 2022 to 2024. And he also played at FIU from 2020 to 2021. In 2024, he allowed only 4 sacks on 1,564 pass blocking snaps at LSU. 0 allowed in 2024. Actually, that's across his entire college career at LSU. He did surrender a sack in his final 20 games of his college career. In 2024, he only allowed 1 QB hit on 579 pass blocking snaps. His PFF pass blocking grade in 2024 was an 88. He was part of a starting unit at LSU that was a finalist for the Joe Moore Award, which goes to the NCAA's top offensive O-line unit. He was a 2021 freshman All-American. He's the first O-lineman the Lions have selected out of LSU since 1988. He's the 7th LSU O-lineman the Lions have ever selected in the draft. And it's the first time the Lions have selected an interior offensive lineman in the 5th round since the Lions selected Graham Glasgow in 2016. So yeah, I mean, last time the Lions drafted an interior O-lineman this late in the draft, it was Graham Glasgow, and he turned out he was all right. I mean, Glasgow isn't too flashy, but he's at least a solid starter in this league. In terms of Miles' strengths, though, he's a 4-year starter against SEC competition at 4 different positions along the O-line, like I already mentioned. Brings an impressive physical toolbox, valuable versatility to the table. Offensive tackle frame, has the size and power to handle stronger defenders in both the run and pass games. Enough explosive off the snap to make sure he's where he needs to be before the opponent gets there. Active and violent with his hands allows him to maintain control at the point of attack, not let opposing defenders get through his reach and into his chest. In terms of weaknesses, though, he lacks the athleticism and lateral quickness to bang with the most explosive athletic trench defenders. He can be inconsistent with his pad level. He loses leverage at the point of attack, getting moved off his spot before he can sink into his anchor or stand his ground. Can just be a beat late when identifying complex pass rush games. Forces him to get off balance and reach to try to recover and save the play. In terms of pro comparisons, has a lot of comparisons to Justin Schaefer, who plays for the San Antonio Brahmas in the UFL. Overall, though, for Miles, he's got the NFL size, ton of versatility, experience to play either guard or tackle on both sides at the next level. His skill set's best suited to play inside, where he can maximize his power profile without exposing his lack of athleticism by leaving him on an island. Starting experience against top competition will help him secure a roster spot at bare minimum. So yeah, I think definitely brought in to be a future starter on the O-line. Because, I think this draft is clearly showing the Lions are looking at indeed retooling the O-line. Mainly in the interior. Because really, every lineman the Lions have right now that's a starter is most likely going to be probably retired in a couple years. Again, up there in age. Like, the only one that's definitely secured for the long runs are Penei Sewell, Giovanni Manu, and Christian Mahogany. But, definitely I think Frazier brought in to be a future starter on the Lions O-line. Looks like a solid pick. Very good at doing his job. Has a lot of versatility. Can play anywhere on the O-line. Definitely a solid pick for sure to be a starter in the long run. So the next player the Lions draft, we're going to go over the Lions drafted, taking at pick 196. Hailing out of Boise State, we have edge rusher Ahmad Hassanin. So for Ahmad, yeah, that last name's a bit of a tongue twister, but yeah, for Ahmad, he had in his college career, he had 119 tackles, 35 tackles for a loss, 24 sacks at 3 forced fumbles, so he was very effective at getting to the QB and rushing the passer and getting pressure. He was on the 2024 first team All-Mountain West team, and he was also on it in 2023. He was third in FBS in QB hits with 17 in 2024. He was also fifth in total pressures with 62 in 2024. He led Boise State in sacks with 9, and he was tied for the team lead tackles for a loss with 15.5 in 2024. His PFF grade in 2024 was an 81.4. His pass rush run weighted 2024 was a 16.1%, which is pretty respectable. He's fifth in the FBS with 12.5 sacks in 2023. He's also the first player from Egypt to play in FBS football, and he's also the first Egyptian player to be drafted in the NFL draft. So, Ahmed is already making some history. He's the first D lineman the Lions have ever selected out of Boise State. The 5th player from Boise State the Lions have ever selected. The first one since 2011. He's also the first edge rusher the Lions have selected in the 6th round of draft since 2017. So yeah, definitely I think he could be into possibly, maybe if he develops, could become a starter and maybe be Aiden Hutchinson's partner in crime. You know, definitely a great feel-good story with him. You know, could be maybe that diamond in the rough. You know, have to see. I mean, his main competition on the other side of the D-line will be like Marcus Davenport and Josh Pascal, if all things considered. But, you know, definitely I think he could become a starter in the league. You know, definitely has the potential to be there. You know, definitely a feel-good story. I think he'll 100% make the roster. So, yeah, you know, just a great feel-good story. And, of course, there was also the video clip after he got drafted where he proposed to his girlfriend after getting drafted by the Lions and getting the phone call. So, yeah. Another feel-good story there, too. I mean, he also has experience inside and outside, and he plays with a lot of ferocity, so he plays with that violent tendency that Dan Campbell likes. And also, based on his draft phone call with Dan Campbell, I think it's going to be a good pick that pans out well, because he literally said he will die for do anything for Dan Campbell. So yeah, he'll literally go through, he'll do more than just go through a brick wall for Dan. He will do whatever it takes to get the job done. So yeah, definitely a culture fit 100% and fits the culture. You know, the draft's a total crapshoot, and we've seen that you can find talent anywhere if you have the right people calling the shots. And, you know, we'll have to see how this pans out, but I think the Lions might have found a diamond in the rough in Ahmed Hassanin. We'll have to wait and see. Time will tell. So the next Lions draft pick, we're going to go over here taking at pick number 230. Hailing out of Georgia, we have safety Dan Jackson. So for Dan's college career at Georgia, he had 140 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 5 pass deflections, 4 interceptions, and 3 forced fumbles. So he was effective at shutting down a passer against turnovers. He was also part of both of Georgia's national championship winning squads in 2021 and 2022. So he is a proven winner in the college level and a champion and has that playoff experience from college football. He started 13 out of 14 games in 2024. In 2024, he was third on Georgia with 64 tackles. He was also 10th in the SEC with 47 sole tackles in 2024. His career coverage PFF grade was an 85.3. Also in 2024, he didn't surrender a touchdown on 33 targets. And when he was targeted, when the QB targeted Dan Jackson, the QB had a passer rating of only 56.3. So very good at shutting down his guy when targeted. He's the second Georgia defensive back the Lions have ever selected in the draft, the first since 1985. He's also the first safety the Lions have selected in the 7th round since 1989. And also with him and Tate Ratledge being selected from Georgia, it's the 4th time the Lions have selected 2 Georgia players in the exact same draft. And the 3 other times were 1943, 1975, and 1985. So yeah, I know we talked about getting some dogs on the team, but I didn't think that meant just draft a shitload of Georgia Bulldogs. But then again, the Philadelphia Eagles did literally win a Super Bowl with an entire defense full of Georgia Bulldogs. So hey, I mean, the Eagles have already proven that drafting a shitload of Georgia players does work if done correctly. So maybe Detroit's going to try and have that luck at it, because we all know how much of a copycat league the NFL is. And since the Philadelphia just showed how to do it, how to get the job done with Georgia players, seems like Detroit's going to try and copy the Philadelphia's game plan for roster construction from Howie Roseman. You know, it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's going to be a training camp body that's going to be fighting to make the roster, because we're pretty set on a lot of the defensive backs and safety, since, you know, we got Kirby Joseph and we have Brian Branch in the secondary. So, you know, it'll be interesting, but, you know, at bare minimum, he could be a practice squatter. Or maybe he could take a spot from, like, Khalil Dorsey or some of the other pylons we have for depth in the secondary. Since we all know how ravaged the secondary got with injury, like the entire defense did last year. So, could be a solid depth piece or a solid backup, for Kirby and Brian Branch, Time will tell. We'll have to wait and see. And the final player the Lions took in this draft class, we have taken at pick 244. We have hailing out of Georgia wide receiver Dominic Leavitt. So for Dominic's college career, he had 197 receptions for 2,243 yards, averaging 11.4 yards per catch and 13 touchdowns. And his 197 receptions are 17th most in SEC history since at least 1956. He split his college career at Georgia from 2023 to 2024 and spent 2 years in Missouri in 2021 and 2022. So he was not part of Georgia's 2 national championship winning squads. He came in after the second national championship win from Georgia. But overall, though, he did lead Georgia in receptions and receiving touchdowns in 2024 with 59 receptions and 6 touchdowns. He was second in Georgia in 2023 in receptions with 54 and receiving yards with 613, averaging 11.4 yards per catch. He was also on the All-SEC second team in 2022. And also in 2022 with Missouri, he led Missouri with 56 receptions and 846 receiving yards, averaging 15.1 yards per catch with Missouri in 2022. His overall PFF grade in 2022 was an 83.8. He's the first wide receiver the Lions ever selected out of Georgia. And with him being selected, along with Tate Ratledge and Dan Jackson, it's the first time that the Lions have selected not 1, not 2, but 3 Georgia players in the same draft class. And it's also the first time that the Lions have selected 3 players from the same program in one draft since 2012, when the Lions took 3 players out of Oklahoma. So, so in terms of receiving, not only to be receiving depth and be in for certain passing down situations, but also think of this, he's also brought, where he's taken this late in the draft, not only a training camp body, but I think somebody to bring in for special teams for kick and punt returns, since, that's going to be another popular thing with the kickoff rules once again being changed. And for anyone complaining, no, the old kickoff rules are never coming back, especially considering the new hybrid ones everybody hates is safer than the ones that everybody likes. So yeah, I think brought in to be a special teamer for kick and punt returns, could be a wide receiver depth too. Time will tell, but I think 100% brought in to be a special teamer for kick and punt returns. It'll be interesting to see if he can make the roster and have a career there. But yeah, Detroit definitely getting some dogs, that's for sure. They definitely got a lot of dogs now, that's for sure. Really going all in on copying Philadelphia's plan of having the whole roster be full of Georgia Bulldog players. But yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up for this Detroit Lions NFL Draft Recap video. So, of course, let's go over the draft class one more time. Tyreek Williams, Tate Ratledge, Isaac Tesla, Miles Frazier, Ahmed Hassanin, Dan Jackson, and Dominic Leavitt. Welcome these 7 names to Detroit. So yeah, honestly, it was a solid draft class to get depth. And, not really too many flashy picks. I mean, that's expected when you're not drafting high in the draft. Like not every pick you're going to get is a top 10 sexy pick. There are going to be picks late in the draft that aren't sexy, but you got to think long-term and depth on the roster and all that stuff. And maybe try and find some diamonds in the rough. But, I mean, in terms of draft grades, I don't really care about draft grades. I don't know why anybody acts surprised with some of these drafts from Brad Holmes. I mean, Brad Holmes has constantly shown that he does not give a flying fuck about mock drafts. And that the Lions take what they feel is the best player on their board, on their draft boards. That fit all the culture and everything they're looking for in a player. So I don't know why you all are surprised. You gotta look at it a lot of different ways. There's a reason why Brad Holmes is one of the top GMs in the league. And it's like, honestly, some people criticize him. Some people just need to learn when to shut the fuck up and let Brad Holmes do his job and let him goddamn cook, damn it. But I mean, in terms of draft grades, honestly, let's be honest, draft grades are pretty fucking meaningless and irrelevant. Like, we don't, they don't really mean anything because we don't know how it's really going to be until we actually see the product on the field. Plus, you can't really properly grade a draft class until about 4 or 5 years down the line. But yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But, definitely I think a little bit of improvement for sure, on the roster, addressing a few weaknesses. Doing a solid job, at least getting some depth for the long run. Because we all know how crucial depth is, especially after what happened last year when the Lions flamed out after the defense got ravaged to hell and back with injuries. But yeah, that wraps up for this recap. So, not much else in terms of Lions content coming up. I know I gotta do that free agency recap video coming up. And also, there's one more draft-related video we're going to be doing, and that will be out hopefully later this week or at least next week, which will be revisiting the 2020 NFL draft class. I am working on that, getting all the notes and everything, just working on some of the selections from the later rounds in the draft. And also taking a look at a certain team's draft class that could go down as one of the worst draft classes in NFL history. You'll have to tune in to find out what that is. But yeah, definitely going to be still doing that video, just working on it right now. Because it takes a lot of work to do those revisiting draft videos. But yeah, that wraps it up here. That's all I'm going to say. Hope everyone's a great day, and I'll see you all later. And of course, in terms of I will be doing the schedule release predictions video, which will be coming out around a day after the schedule gets released. Which the NFL schedule for 2025 is set to be released on around May 14th. So yeah, you got that to look forward to in May. But anyway, that'll wrap it up here, and I'll see you all whenever I make next. I'm out.